Welcome to Exploring the Mystical Side of Life with your host, Linda Lang.
Hi, this is Linda Lang from ThoughtChange.com. We're here exploring the mystical side of life today. Today I have Mabel Katz, and Mabel is a peace ambassador and an absolute joy to help us change our mind. So welcome, Mabel.
How are you, Linda? It's great to be here with you.
I'm fantastic, and I'm so excited about our conversation. Mabel has created a system to help change your mind. So I'd love to hear a little bit, first of all, about how you got interested in thoughts and how they create our reality.
That's a great question. I was those hard workers. I'm still a hard worker, but those hard workers that you feel you are all alone and everything is, is hard work and things like that. And I actually was in the race for material things, thinking that those would make me happy, but there wasn't a big house enough for, to make me happy, not enough money in the world to make me happy. I had everything, 2 university titles. I was a very unhappy person, very unsatisfied. And it was like, I didn't even know what it was wrong, I was just mad, I think. So one day my oldest son talked to me the way I used to talk to him, angry, frustrated, and I saw myself, I said, oh my goodness, he learned that from me. And that day I made a decision. And today I can tell you, our life depends on our decisions. That's it. Yes, we are 100% responsible. And my life changed that day because a lot of things started showing up in my life that maybe they were there, but I didn't notice, yes? Like a magazine that I always receive in my house, and suddenly I saw that there was a course about anger, a class. And I said, I'm gonna go and see what anger is, or where it comes from. And it ended up being a metaphysical teacher that used to have groups at his house, to talk about metaphysics, and I signed up for it. And then a friend of mine gave me a book, a metaphysical book, because she noticed I was in the search. And that completely changed my life. I went to a yoga class, and the teacher made us do a visualization at the end of the class. And whatever I visualized, I manifested the same day. That's when I started wondering if it could be that we were so powerful that whatever we thought, we could create. We could manifest. And so I actually felt happy for the first time, when I found metaphysics, when I found out about spirituality. I didn't know anything about spirituality. So I was raised Jewish in Argentina, very, Jewish people in Argentina, we assimilate a lot, so we weren't religious at all. We got together for the holidays, yes? And when I came here, because I was an immigrant, I had to belong, because at that time I was not spiritual, yes? So I depended on people appreciating me and accepting me and belonging and having friends, to be somebody. So I turned into the temple. I sent my kids, to preschool at the temple. And that's when I found my grounding, yes? Again, because being an immigrant is not the easiest thing in the world. Actually, when I found spirituality, I let go of religion completely. I'm not against any, but spirituality, as you know, is above all religions. It brings peace. It makes us family.
I love your story. And what I love the most, I think, is the magic of the universe and how you put out the call, the question, the intent, and you were answered.
Yes.
But you had to take the steps, right?
Yes.
It's all about your choices. Always
Always.
about your choices. Absolutely.
Yes.
So congratulations.
I always say, why didn't I wake up earlier, So I was working for a CPA office at that time, and I was going through all these, changes, and I was going through a divorce. And one of the partners in the firm came and says, Mabel, maybe this is midlife crisis, And I look at him, I said, this is midlife crisis. I'm loving it. I'm happy for the first time in my life.
So once you stepped on the metaphysical path, you start to become more self-aware and to do your inner work.
Yes.
How did you discover zero frequency?
Basically, I did many things as everybody. In the search, I wanted to do everything. I didn't have enough weekends, to take all the seminars and learn about all different philosophies and techniques. Something that really helped me a lot was rebirthing. And rebirthing brought me to Ho'oponopono. Ho'oponopono is a very ancient Hawaiian art of problem solving. That's what I've been practicing for, I lost count, but my first training was July 1997. So that's when my life really started changing. But when I was doing the rebirthing trainings, I realized there was a lot of drama. People just went kind of back to find out who they could blame, because now I remember my father did this to me, my uncle, and I said, there has to be an easier and faster way. I didn't buy into the drama. Now I have to relieve, and again, find somebody to blame. I said, there has to be an easier and faster way. I had heard of Ho'oponopono through rebirthing. At first, it didn't ring, like it didn't do anything. But when I met the person that organized for my teacher, Dr. Ihalia Kalahiulen, that's when actually something clicked. And I said, hey, I want to go and take this training. And I went to Omaha, Nebraska, actually, to take my first training. That's when I met my teacher. And I invited him because even though I was an accountant, I was already into event coordination, and I was starting to also coordinate events for spiritual teachers. Whoever, I went and I took a class and he helped me. I said, okay, I have people, that I can bring. How many people you need? Yes. So that's what I did with my teacher, and then it's a long story because he's included traveling with him, teaching with him, and etc. But always as a hobby, because I wasn't planning to change careers. I mean, I had a wonderful career, and I always had work in Argentina, here in US, so I didn't have to worry about that part of my life. But I started letting go and trusting. I started practicing, and I said, what do I have to lose? Yes? Okay, maybe we are not alone. Maybe we do have some help from the universe. And I started practicing. Now, I am still today an intellectual person. I can relate to intellects, yes? Because I've been in that work for half of my life, kind of. So for me, it's important to wake up people. Sometimes it's not about convincing them about a method or say, oh, Ho'oponopono is profound, but I understand it's not for everybody. Works for everybody, it's not for everybody. But for me, the most important is to wake up people. I say, do something, stop blaming and complaining. Take responsibility, because everything is inside you and you can change it if you don't like it. So zero frequency, to answer your question, is like a practical way of practicing Ho'oponopono. I think that because, like you said it really perfect, in the beginning, it starts with you. You have to take that first step. We have to convince the intellect to make better choices, yes? So yes. Zero frequency gives me the opportunity to talk to the intellect, because Ho'oponopono is more for the subconscious mind. I can show the intellect. I can kind of convince or give them experiences, because you never forget experiences, yes? So the idea is that you realize that, again, that you can change it, that it starts with you, that 100% responsibility will set you free.
Mabel, when we say 100% responsibility, a lot of people use that word responsibility as blame. It's not about blame. It's not about
No,
blame.
no, it's not about guilt. I'm not saying you are guilty. No. So in Ho'oponopono, we say we are 100% responsible of what? The programs that are playing inside of our subconscious mind that show up in the monitor. Yes. So
Yes.
everything that I experience in life is actually the monitor that is showing me the programs that are inside of me. So if I have only two choices, yes, I can talk to the monitor, but the monitor cannot do anything. Ho'oponopono is how do I delete? Oh, that's inside of me. Oh, sorry, delete. Yeah. So that is the idea. The idea is that we all have that delete key in ourselves. We can always choose to take responsibility and allow for the computer, to do the erasing. So in Ho'oponopono, we talk about cleaning, we talk about erasing. So only when you create an empty space, inspiration can come into your life. So what we are looking for is to move from inspiration, to talk from inspiration. Yes, it's not like we sit to say thank you and I love you and we don't do anything. No, that allows you to come back, to be aligned, to come back to present and to be inspired. Because right now we are so busy, here, that there is no way we can connect, with inspiration. So you have to consciously make that connection.
And until you do take responsibility, if you are continually blaming someone else or the outside world, you don't have the power to change.
Exactly. That's, Linda, that's what I realized. One day, it wasn't my first seminar, I heard this many times till it clicked, yes? And I said, wait a minute, if I'm responsible, it means I created it? I can change it. Now I'm powerful. I was giving my power away, blaming and complaining and thinking that there's somebody else that has to change.
And I think a lot of people do that unconsciously.
Yeah, we are in automatic. And because it's accepted, it's like an addiction that we have. Yes, but it's an accepted addiction.
Absolutely. And I had mentioned before we hit record that I'm a student of the Huna shamanic teachings from Hawaiian, fourth level initiate, and really Ho'oponopono is one of our foundations. Absolutely. It's incredible what can shift.
It's profound work also, because you have to know that as we can see now, we are all family, yes? So you could be making world changes only because you decided to take responsibility, because you decided to erase, and it gets erased from everybody.
Oh my God,
So
I got goosebumps.
Yes, it is really profound work. I mean, I always say it's hard to explain with words. It cannot be explained with words, but it's amazing. To give you an idea, in Madrid last year in the training, there were a lot of glass bottles and glasses that broke during the training, that it was very unusual. But I also have very intuitive, students that can see things that happen, in the trainings. And several of them in Madrid got confirmation that every glass that broke during the training, it was a bomb, that it was not going to explode. Less than a month, later, I was still in Europe, and we got a message from some students. They said, Mabel, did you find out what happened? In Italy, they found a bomb from World War II. They had to evacuate, the whole city or something like that. Then somebody sent me that it happened something like that in Germany, So it was related, we don't know, but interesting, yes?
Well, it's fascinating, and it's so true that when you change your inside world, the outside world changes too.
Yes.
We have so much power to shift things in our world, and not just our inner world. But I'd love if you could talk a little bit about how when we do shift our inner world, I mean, our world changes too. The things that we notice changes, the opportunities that come. It's like magic, really.
And I always say, when you change, everything changes. Not the other way around.
Absolutely. We are powerful, powerful creators.
Yes, yes. And right now, with everything that we are living, this is the opportunity that we all have to reconnect with that power, to realize that it all depends on us, this free choice, free will, whatever you want to call it. And as you well said, everything starts with us. So yes, there is a lot of help from the universe. We are not alone, but we have to do the work. I mean, because that's why we came. Yes, we came to learn. We came to make amends. So otherwise, nobody can come and save us, because it would interfere with, with our free choice of coming to heal, coming to make a better world.
So I would imagine your world has changed immensely.
When it changed many times in my life. Okay, so let's start by being an immigrant, talking about change, yes, and leaving behind, starting from zero again, yes, starting all over. Then my divorce. Then because of Ho'oponopono and the letting go and trusting, starting my own practice when I always worked for CPA offices. Then when I let go of my career completely, to do something that I don't even have a title, I didn't go to university to learn this. And it keeps going, yes? So I always tell people that, well, I didn't mention my divorce, yes? And actually my kids stay with my husband. So very unusual, especially for a Latin family. But that took place only because I let go and trust. Or the same with my finding my passion. I wasn't looking for it, just stumbled with my passion. And for me, Linda, that is basic, that we start doing what we love. What would you do even if you don't get paid? Because that is your compass. Talking about how we blame and complain, what about doing just working for the money? Yes, because we need the money and we do something that we hate. That's something, a very bad habit.
Very bad habit. And for anybody that's doing that, any of the listeners that are in that place, in your spare time, bring in the stuff that you love and start to shift.
Parallel. Yeah, I didn't let go completely of my career overnight. Oh, I found my passion. No, the idea is, it's a preparation, it's a thing, you have to enjoy the journey, yes? So I was doing, when I decided to let go of my career, it's because I needed to sleep at least a little. I didn't have even, I had like 2 careers, and it got to the point I said, I cannot do this anymore. And I was sure in my heart, I didn't have to ask anybody that I had to do this, that I had to let go.
Every person listening has already gone through so much change in their life, so much change that you've already done it. It's nothing to be afraid of. And if you don't like the direction that you've changed in, now you know you have the power.
One thing that helped me a lot, Linda, was I read a book that is called Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway. Because life is about getting out of your comfort zone. And it's not like you are the only one feeling fear, nobody else. No, we all, every time you have to do something different or something you don't, kind of handle because, you're going to go through fear. But that's what life is. And usually it puts you in situations where it will help you to move on, it will help you to move you in the right direction, or it will be a step. For example, I always give the example that I was taking a training. It wasn't a Ho'oponopono one many, many years ago. And we had to sing in front of everybody with no music. It was so embarrassing. I didn't even remember the songs from my childhood. I mean, you get so nervous, yes? But Linda, when I went back, I had to do it, yes? I didn't have a choice. So when I went back to my chair, you know what I told myself? I said, Mabel, if you sang in front of everybody with no music, speaking is easy.
Beautiful. Great mind shift. Great mind shift. I love it. I love it.
Yeah, it always had to do with our conversations, our decisions,
Yeah.
what we tell ourselves. If you say you cannot, you cannot. Yes, you are right.
Yeah. It's funny that we've brought this up because just earlier today I was reading a quote that said, your decisions are more important than your abilities.
Yeah, you decide, yes, what you are able.
Yeah, exactly. I love it. So, Mabel, do you have any tips for our listeners to kind of get to that
I
point?
have a lot. I'm gonna tell you how my shift happens. You know, the things that I change in here, the conversations that I change that really help me, because I know people are maybe I say, okay, how do you start? Yes. For me, there were a couple of things that made a big difference. I realized that what I think of myself is important, not what other people think of me. I stopped looking for acceptance outside of myself. And that completely changed my life because I started being happy. Something that my teacher told me when I realized I was going to teach is because I went to him and I said, okay, so if I'm going to teach, I have to take classes. Yes, I'm an accountant. So I'm going to take classes for public speaking. And he said, no, that will take all your naturality. All you have to be is yourself. So that be yourself is basic, so simple and so difficult at the same time because we are never being ourselves because you are looking for approval. Yes, you are being what other people want you to be. That also is, ooh, that's a big weight of, And the third one is forgiveness. You forgive because you don't want to hurt yourself anymore. It doesn't matter if the other one doesn't deserve it. You're hurting yourself. So it gets to the point you have to love yourself. You have to believe in yourself. You have to trust yourself enough to treat yourself better, and stop living in the past and come back to present, because in the present moment, that is the only thing you have, is where you can make a change and really change your future.
Yeah, beautiful and very well said. It reminds me of the universal law that Edgar Cayce channeled. Edgar Cayce was a great American sleeping prophet. His law of forgiveness said that forgiveness heals and empowers the one who forgives. It has nothing to do with the other person.
Yes.
Yeah, powerful.
And also when you see that there is a gift behind, yes, now you can heal not only yourself, but you can help to heal others.
Yeah, beautiful.
That was an experience that actually made you a better person, no worse.
Wonderful, wonderful. Mabel, thank you so much for being my guest today.
Linda, it was a pleasure. Great interview. Thank you. I just want to show people that I do have my new zero frequency book that it took 10 years. So I promise you it's really worth it. It comes also with 10 videos that I recorded, especially to accompany you in this journey. Because for me, zero frequency is a journey. And I give you plenty of tips to get to zero. The most important is to realize when you are not at zero, when you are not present, because that's your job. If you are in the present, you have everything you need. Yeah. So the idea is how to come back to present, how to come back to zero, how to write the zero frequency so that everything comes to you. You are just in the flow and things come. You don't have to set goals. You don't have to plan. It's much easier. You become a child again.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that because we haven't actually defined the zero frequency. So you are defining that as the present moment.
Being in the present and allowing, whatever is right and perfect for you to come. So instead of pushing, remember the problems are not the problem, but how you react to problem. So if you can work on your reaction, if you can change your perception, if you can do things, yes. For example, in Ho'oponopono, we use a lot of thank you and I love you, but not everybody relates to that. There are so many other ways to go back to zero. And then you go to the thank you and the I love you, yes? But even breathing, it could bring you back. You cannot breathe for the past or the future. So if you are breathing, you are present. Yeah. And so many times we forget to breathe.
Yeah. Our bodies are the perfect tool to keep us in the moment.
Yes.
Wonderful,
yes.
Wonderful. I love it. Mabel, what is your website?
So zerofrequency.com, and if you go to the book page, you will find more information about the book and other things. But also you can find me in social media, Mabel Katz fan page in Facebook, and then I have my YouTube channel, Mabel Katz, Instagram, Mabel Katz. You will find me.
Okay, perfect.
Thank
We'll
you.
put some links in the show notes. Thank you for listening to this week's episode of Exploring the Mystical Side of Life. You'll find us on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and on Facebook. You'll find me at thoughtchange.com. Pick up your copy of Learning to Listen and begin that journey yourself. Bye for now. Remember to subscribe so you can stay tuned for more fascinating guests on Exploring the Mystical Side of Life.